In 1994, Newt Gingrich, Bob Dole, and a Republican-controlled Congress passed the contract with America that listed 8 commandments and 10 bills for reforming government. On the first day of their majority in the House, the Republicans promised to bring up for vote 8 major reforms. Number 1, require all laws that apply to the rest of the country also apply to Congress. Number 2, select a major independent auditing firm to conduct a comprehensive audit of Congress for waste, fraud, or abuse. Number 3, cut the number of House committees and cut committee staff by 1/3. Number 4, limit the terms of all committee chairs. Number 5, ban the casting of proxy votes in committee. Number 6, require committee meetings to be open to the public. Number 7, require a 3/5 majority vote to pass a tax increase. And number 8, guarantee an honest accounting of the federal budget by implementing zero baseline budgeting. During the first 100 days of the 104th Congress, the Republicans pledged to bring to the floor the following 10 bills, each to be given a full and open debate, each to be given a clear and fair vote, and each to be immediately available for public inspection. The text of the proposed bills was included in the contract, which was released prior to the election. These bills were not governmental, operational reforms as the previous promises were. Rather, they represented significant changes to policy. They mainly included a balanced budget requirement, tax cuts for small businesses, families, and seniors, term limits for legislators, Social Security reform, tort reform, and welfare reform. Of course, none of this happened. Therefore, do you feel lost to giant government and big business? If so, you should be concerned that politicians, as Charlie Reese points out in his famous article, cause problems and will not, nor can they solve them. If you think about it, we have skated right by socialism with the Great Society programs into the realm of regulatoryism with punitive enforcement. Sounds Marxist to me. For your information, over 40,000 laws were passed by the lawmakers across the U.S. in 2012, requiring funding of approximately $5 million per law to implement and enforce. That equals $200 billion in additional overhead heaped on America's small businesses each year. Lawmakers make laws without compunction or fiscal accountability. We need job makers and peacekeepers, not unfettered egos inhibiting business and economic growth. Peace is not America's foreign policy. It is do it our way or else. So-called human rights aren't even practiced in this country. Unionization purged our rights to collective bargaining when they organized government workers under the radar. Government by public servants, for public servants, and of public servants. This has cost us our fiscal future. We, the people of the United States of America, take back our sovereignty and reclaim our right to have a say in the policies and conduct of our government. We are offering a third-party alternative for those enterprising Americans who pay for the public sector and do not currently have fair representation or input to the system that has caused many fiscal, social, and foreign relation problems that face this nation of 313 million citizens. The following initiatives are what this third party will pursue and enact under a more responsive and representative government. We do not need entitlement reform. We need government reform. We currently have 19.7 million government employees, a $1 trillion annual payroll, a $25 trillion annual pension debt, and a $100 trillion deficit using generally accepted accounting principles. We will reduce the cost of regulations, not eliminate human service programs. We will eliminate unionized pension plans and replace them with IRAs or another form of personal pension withholding savings accounts, which are not funded by taxes. Any tax reform will eliminate taxes on adjusted taxable income and replace it with a flat 5% assessment on individual and corporate net worth. The new entitlements, such as unemployment compensation and food stamps, are eroding our American work ethic and need to be replaced with real private sector jobs that create a true return on our gross national product. Job creation will be stimulated by downsizing government and upsizing the private sector. Ridding the economy of 50% of the regulators lowers overhead and relieves the stifling impact it has on the creativity, technology, and product development of small businesses. We will put the producers back to work and the checkers out of the way. We will recapitalize the American enterprise by assessing 5% of the net worth of the wealthiest companies and individuals to pay down the national debt to a manageable level. This will allow investors to make their own decisions and strategies without the infringement of government enforcers, and replacing debt instruments with equity from foundations and tax shelters for those who have profited from the great American enterprise. Healthcare needs to be based on an enterprise model where self-help funding shifts spending away from enforcement to pay for collaborative rules and regulations for self-help incentives. The unhealthy must be responsible for their own medical costs through a withholding program that is invested in mutual health insurance companies. It will invest the reserves into small businesses that will share in the cost of health and fitness programs. The shift of the paradigm to health preservation and disease prevention will be funded through the withholding program of all employed Americans, so they can make their own decisions regarding their personal health plan. Banking and currency exchange made through the Federal Reserve System must be held accountable to the benefit of the enterprise or be disbanded. The Fed's mismanagement of the exchange rate caused the fall of the housing market and the burst of the mortgage bubble. Rather than gambling the taxpayers' money, the Federal Reserve System must not be allowed free rein with monetary exchange rates. 20 million jobs related to the housing and mortgage financing have been lost, and now we need to regenerate them by getting rid of the Dodd-Frank bill imposition of financing that furthered the impact of the housing depression and further destroyed capital markets for small businesses. The Bush administration, along with Paulson and Bernanke's policies, caused the Relief Act and the debacle that was furthered by the Obama stimulus and health care bill. National defense should focus on peaceful coexistence initiatives and reduce investments in weapons of mass destruction. The fear of the terrorists will be remedied by creating accurate statistical analysis of perceived threats so we can prioritize threats rather than checking everyone's shoes at the airport. We will rethink the importance of the United Nations and support them in strategic and tactical handling of foreign aid and relations. We will communicate with the enemies regarding the problems of not having peace as the world's focus, rather than having political platforms redefining opinions on government's role in people's lives. Democracy American style is not the solution for decentralized, unresolved civil wars. Energy consumption must be coordinated with purchasing partners to form a collective bargaining group called OPEC, Oil Purchasing Energy Consortium, which has the authority for setting the supply, demand, and the price of oil. We must promote the efficient and environmentally safe use of coal and natural gas. We must promote efficient use of energy for automobiles, homes, and we will make the environment more dependent on conservation rather than deprivation. Assessing the net worth of wealthy oil and gas companies will allow us to research natural resources in North America so we can break the dependence on the dominant third world energy sources. Immigration should be both encouraged and managed at the borders, with specific Ellis Island-type holding areas for signing up immigrants for citizenship, while committing them and their families to speak English as the national language, setting up withholding for taxes and Social Security, and enforce an agreed-upon time frame for taking the citizenship exam. Those already in the country will receive amnesty, so long as they are repatriated into the system the same as new immigrants. Fiscal healing will be achieved by the 5% assessment on net worth that will generate capital from individuals and corporations and not-for-profit organizations. 50% of the annual $5 trillion new equity capital assessment will be used to invest in small businesses, which can be used for new technology, infrastructure repair, and educational costs. The other 50% of the annual $5 trillion equity capital assessment will be used for paying down the $16 trillion national debt, which at this new rate would be eliminated in 3 years. The unionized pension plans will be replaced by personal withholding accounts for each individual. The current increases in the stock market are primarily due to the investment of pension funds from public service employees who do not increase the gross national product. Foreign countries who use the American consumer markets for sales of goods and services will be assessed 5% of their trade excesses for the right to utilize America's enterprise consumer markets for profit. State governors will be encouraged to replace taxation with recapitalization, utilizing the net worth assessment. This will eliminate deficits and fund infrastructure repairs, eliminate property taxes, and fund education. The deployment of the capital will occur without any regards to race, creed, social standing, or property values. We will embrace positive reinforcement in administering health and human services by paying for health care through withholding from the employed. For the unemployed, use the assessment method for capitalizing safety net programs from net worth. Gun control should be based on an amendment to the Second Amendment through a definition of safety by the states. We will utilize a set of principles designed for preserving the personal right of self-preservation when it comes to the use of non-military weapons. We will eliminate the manufacture and use of both assault weapons and military weapons by treating their abuse as a felony, with automatic loss of citizenship and the benefits of being an American, as well as implementing fines and life sentences for such violations. This book is dedicated to the American people who feel unrepresented and unappreciated by the 545 who now control our lives. Following is quoted from a newspaper article by Charlie Reese. I quote, "Politicians are the only people in the world who create problems and then campaign against them. Have you ever wondered if both the Democrats and Republicans are against deficits, why do we have deficits? Have you ever wondered if all the politicians are against inflation and high taxes, why do we have inflation and high taxes? You and I don't propose a federal budget, the president does. You and I don't have the constitutional authority to vote on appropriations, the House of Representatives does. You and I don't write the tax code, Congress does. You and I don't set fiscal policy, Congress does. You and I don't control monetary policy, the Federal Reserve Bank does. 100 senators, 435 congressmen, 1 president, and 9 Supreme Court justices equates to 545 human beings out of the 300 million are directly, legally, morally, and individually responsible for the domestic problems that plague this country. Why then would we believe that they can solve them?